I'm really excited about this format because typically the candidate forums are question and an answer and less of a conversation. Now, Carrie, first of all, I just want to say thank you. I know that a lot of time and effort goes into this. I know that since early February, when I received the invitation to this event, I've been looking forward to it. I've had my calendar marked for quite some time. So thank you all for being here. I do want to give a brief background about who I am and why it is that I'm running for GCISD. However, after that, I really would like to open it up to questions because I think that anybody who's on the school board owes that to every constituent group within their district, right? At a minimum, you show up. At a minimum, you answer questions. At a minimum, you provide that respect to a group of parents and stakeholders and constituents who are here on a Thursday evening when they could be doing any number of things. So thank you all for having me. I'm running for school board to eliminate distractions and to focus on solutions because I think we've had way too many distractions since May of 2022 and we have not had nearly enough solutions. By way of background, I was raised by a single mother who's a classroom teacher. I grew up in a small town about an hour east of Amarillo called Pampa, Texas. In fact, of all things, my mother was my 8th grade English teacher. After that, I went to college where I met the love of my life, Katie, at that time, Katie Williams, who was a sophomore education major from Colleyville, Texas, and I was just head over heels for her. She put me through law school by serving as a first grade teacher in the Waco area. And so when I think back on some of my most foundational memories as a child, it was watching my mother, who was an experienced teacher, commit herself to an honorable craft, to being a teacher, to educating students. And I remember very clearly her working on lesson plans, grading papers, some of my earliest memories. And so then you counterbalance that with seeing my wife as a first-year teacher when she was putting me through law school to say, hey, here's somebody who's had a phenomenal education, but now she's going and doing the thing, right? She is being a teacher. And the amount of growth that I saw from my wife from that first day of being a teacher to the last day of her 3rd year, whenever she walked out of her elementary school, is a great counterbalance because I started to see a number of similarities, right? Being a seasoned professional. I do need to mention this. There are a number of different reasons why I'm running. You get that question a lot as a candidate, right? Why are you running? And there's always this impulse that I have to like just really pour my heart out and try to put as much energy into that answer as I can so I can get everybody else to care about this as much as I do. But what I've learned is there are a number of different reasons why I'm running. But the primary reason is this. We owe in our district nothing short of a moral obligation to every single one of our students, every single one of them, to give them a world-class education. And I feel like to the extent that we are focused on things other than solutions, whenever we're focused on outside noise, whenever we're focused on the pervasive influence of outside political action committees, I think that is a distraction for our district. And what I'm doing is I'm staying focused on being the best trustee that I can be. Because I'll be quite honest, as this campaign unfolds, I started off with optimism. I'm not the kind of candidate who wants to run to try to make a statement or because I have a singular issue. I'm running to win. And as we get closer and closer, the amount of vitriol, the amount of hatred, the amount of money that people are throwing against me right now, it lets me know that I've got a really good chance at winning because otherwise they wouldn't focus any of that on me. But this isn't about me. This is about answering questions from the community. I do want to address 3 things. There were a number of questions that were sent, and I don't want to answer the specific questions. I want to give each person in this room an opportunity to ask those, but categorically there were some similarities, some veins that kind of ran throughout each one of those. The first one was talking about the Aspire program, right? And I believe very firmly that every program that has made GCISD great and made us a destination district for families who want to move into the district or those who want to send our students to them, this time in public education more than any other, we need to protect, we need to continue to fund, and we need to preserve each one of those destination programs, including Aspire. Another question that came up, or one of the common veins that came up, was teacher recruitment retention for this group, specifically within the lens of GT. We are losing too many good teachers in GCISD. I don't know how else to say it, and anybody else who's not willing to open their eyes and admit that, I think that they're also unqualified to tackle that issue, right? If we don't look at the issue, if we don't acknowledge it, if we want to stick our head in the sand, then we are never going to be in a position where we can actually address the issue. Now, facts are hard, stubborn things, and one of those is this. The United Educators Association, I see a few head nods, they've done a study recently where they look at teacher retention. Because ultimately, if I were to look at one metric, whether it's at a corporation or a school district, to decide how strong that organization is doing, it's this. Do their employees feel respected? Do they feel like they're being compensated at a level that's consistent with the amount of experience they have? And do they want to stay, or do they choose to leave? Now, the United Educators Association looked at this, and based upon 52 different school districts in North Texas, all the way from Dallas to Glen Rose and everything in between, GCISD was 40th on that list. And I have yet to hear a compelling reason from anybody about why we should be doing so poorly in terms of teacher recruitment and retention. But it gets worse than that, because that same study, whenever they look at year-over-year change, right, whether districts are getting better and by how much, or whether districts are getting worse and by how much, we are 51st. This is a cold hard fact. GCISD, in terms of year-over-year teacher retention, is 51st. By way of background, my wife grew up in this area. That's not the district that she grew up in. It's not the district that she moved here for, that her family moved here for, and it's not the one that I'm going to put up with any longer. We have to find solutions to be able to keep our top flight teachers in the classroom. Now, I need to be clear here. By way of background and training, I am an attorney. And trust me, I know that every profession has its bad apples. However, if there is a teacher or any employee of the district for that matter that is making the district better and living up to our standards, then we need to fight to keep them in the classroom. Because of all the studies that I've looked at, the common denominator for improving student outcomes is this: having a high caliber educator in the classroom. That is it. And if we continue to lose them, then we're falling far short of our mark. And we are not going to put our students in a position where whenever they walk across the stage, that they have the skills, the knowledge, the experience, the education, the training to go and chase their dreams. Because that's what I believe. As a trustee and as a community, our job is not to tell students what their dreams are. It's to equip them to go and chase whatever their dreams may be. All right. I really do want to open it up. I know that time is evaporating quickly on us. So whoever has the first question, please raise your hand. And just as a forewarning, I'm going to try to be concise to get to as many questions as I possibly can without skipping over any of the important details. So please raise your hand if you have any questions. Yeah.
Well, I guess, is there any particular root cause analysis on why teachers are leaving the district?
Okay, I'm going to repeat that. Just, I don't know if the mic picked you up. So as I understood it, your question was, is there a root cause analysis for why we are losing teachers? I firmly believe that since May of 2022, there have been a number of disrespectful comments made from the dais that show a lack of understanding and a lack of respect for our educators. I would also say this: during this past year, there was not a single employee in GCISD who received a pay increase. Traditionally in GCISD, I think the value proposition for being an employee of our district was this: you would maybe make marginally less money than surrounding districts, right? I don't think that if somebody is willing to travel to a different district, right, if they don't mind a 30-minute commute, one way or the other, then they can make substantially more. However, in GCISD, for the longest time, teachers knew that if they lived up to standards in the district, that the chain of command, all the way from the board of trustees to the superintendent to their campus level administrator, would have their back. And I don't necessarily know that teachers feel that way. And I want to return it to that point where teachers, again, let me be abundantly and explicitly clear. Any employee of GCISD, including our classroom teachers, if they live up to our standards and they make our district better, I will always have their backs.
Well, I guess I'm new to the district, right? I moved last year because of the Aspire program. We actually moved from Massachusetts, right? Just to be here for gifted education. I don't understand, we voted for Batter, right? We kind of tried to support the community and the district, right? On all the different fronts, right? To make sure the funding is there. And now we're saying that we are not actually paying our teachers enough. How is that even possible?
If I'm going to condense that down, just again, so the audio picks up on this, you're talking about how the community has supported the district in the form of the Vader, right? Yeah. You also talked about how why is it that teachers not earning what they deserve.
The neighboring communities pay, right?
I think that the primary issue there is that, don't get me wrong, I love the state of Texas. I'm a 4th generation Texan. I was born in Amarillo, raised in Pampa. I have a degree from 2 Christian universities in Texas. I will put my Texas bona fides up against anybody else. However, here's the issue. I feel like for far too long, the state of Texas, specifically lawmakers in Austin, have failed to meet their moral obligation to fully fund public education. In fact, today, of all things, the House Committee on Education, they weren't talking about how to increase teacher pay or to improve student outcomes. They were talking about vouchers in our state, which if I had another, I know 15 minutes is not nearly long enough for me to tee up the issue of vouchers. But what I would say is this: GCISD, we are doing our job. You made a wise decision in coming to a fantastic district. Because look around this room and anywhere you go, there are people who are committed, who have skin in the game, who are invested in making our district as good as it possibly can be. Y'all made a good decision. Because look, if I felt like the district wasn't worth fighting for, I wouldn't be putting up a campaign sign in my front yard. I'd be putting up a for sale sign. But this is our home, this is where we live, and this is what we're fighting for. What other questions? Yes, yeah.
No, I can't.
But you can ask a question.
I can ask a question. Okay, go ahead. You go first. So what do you know about the current board in terms of, do they advocate at the Capitol where there are so many problems with the state? Do they have a relationship with their state rep or state senator?
Okay, so the question, just for my purposes and make sure it's picked up, is what type of relationship does our board have with state level lawmakers? I can tell you that in fact, I've taken road trips to Austin with members of our board of trustees. Just kind of proves the point. If you want to get to know somebody, take a road trip to Austin with them. And so I feel that generally speaking, our board has, as a whole, missed a number of opportunities, quite honestly. Because during the past 2 legislative sessions, during the lead up to it, our board, like many other boards, puts together their list of legislative priorities. And on 2 different occasions, it was submitted from somebody on the board to explicitly disavow vouchers and to lobby our lawmakers, both our state rep and our state senator, to say, we, GCISD, the Board of Trustees, does not want vouchers. And on both of those occasions, my opponent derailed that amendment or that suggestion that we actually tackle vouchers. So here's what I would say. I would say that for people who claim to have strong influence over state lawmakers in Austin, as a resident of GCISD, as a parent of 2 GCISD students, I have yet to see any return on those so-claimed relationships as it relates to benefiting our district. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
You had a question as well?
Yes. So in an enrollment-based funding scenario that we're living in right now, how do you feel about using those special programs to increase enrollment by, setting a qualification and allowing neighboring cities to come here if the kids meet the criteria that are set?
Yeah, so just to repeat the question, please let me know if I mischaracterize it. As I heard it, it was the idea that how is it that I feel about having students from outside of GCISD coming to the district to attend certain programs? Is that accurate?
If they meet the criteria and their space.
If they meet the criteria and if there's space. So I think we need to look at this in terms of vouchers have come up a number of times, right? In the context of vouchers not having passed yet, and I'm not giving up the ghost, I still think that is a good idea for our district. Because like you said, in the question is in Texas, we have, it's actually, an attendance-based funding mechanism, right? So it's an incredibly complex and opaque set of numbers when we talk about public school financing. But in substance, you look at average daily attendance multiplied by the basic allotment. And I feel like if we continue to invest in those programs that have made GCISD so exceptional, that we are in a position to where we can, in addition to providing a world-class education to as many students as possible, we can actually increase our funding right now, especially in a circumstance where the state has continually failed to do that. And the way I think about this is when I say a world-class education for every student, I mean every single one, right? Whether they are in GT or Aspire, or whether they want to learn how to be an automotive technician or anything in between. Because for a long time, I think in public education, we felt like we were pushing every student towards a 4-year degree. That worked out for me. That was my path. However, I think now we are learning that the programs that you're talking about, they are much broader than that. I think we need to be equipping students with skills where they can go into the workforce right away, or where they can have a minimal amount of post-high school training, and then they are highly employable. So I'm not opposed to it. I think it is a good way to improve our finances while honing those programs that have made us so great.
Got one real quick one.
Okay.
1 minute.
Yes.
Yeah, go.
So the district is because this is a SAGE forum and GT and Aspire parents, the district is currently making our GT and Aspire kids take iReady. A lot of those students, especially like my 6th grader, maxed out of iReady that goes through an 8th grade level, maxed out of it in the fall of a 6th grade year. So having to spend a mandatory time every month when they could be doing some type of other enrichment is extremely frustrating for these students. Do you have any feedback or thoughts on that?
Yes, I do. And how much time do I have?
15 seconds.
15 seconds. The question was about iReady. We need, for people who don't know, iReady is a program for an iPad-based program for K through 8 students where there is a mandatory 90 minutes per week, 45 minutes for reading, 45 minutes for math. We need to focus on traditional implements for education, right? Because I firmly believe that we will never do anything exceptional unless we master the fundamentals. And so the fact that we have a program that's being touted by some individuals that is compulsory screen time, that does our students a disservice.
Thank you. That was a great answer.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you sticking with our rules.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
In the room, please don't leave just yet. We wanted to have a,
Did we turn off?
yeah, make sure I'm not screwing things up there. Okay, really quick. Don't know if that one was even working, but we did two just in